Well, hello and welcome again back with another video which talks about the latest Express entry draw. Very exciting because things are gradually beginning to move. And it's looking better, it's looking more promising, it's looking more progressive. We'll talk more about it in detail. Welcome to the channel. My name is Kubeir. I'm a CICC licensed immigration consultant. This channel is all about Canadian immigration news, updates, things you should do, things you definitely should not. And of course, we talk about the Express entry draws as well. So, bringing to you today is the latest Express entry draw, which happened this afternoon. It's become a trend now for the draw to happen late in the afternoon. Uh, I don't like the suspense because it just keeps you waiting and hanging and waiting, and then eventually it happens later in the afternoon. But finally, it does happen, and so it did happen today. And this was the Express entry draw number 230. That is what the draw number was. And let's just get to the basics here. All right. 2,750 invitations issued, and that is the big news for today because this is finally an increment of 500 invitations. Earlier, they were incrementing the invitations by 250. Thankfully, this time the increase has been 500, which we were hoping and praying for. It finally happened. But the bigger news is that the CRS score is now at 516. The last draw was at 525. It has dropped 9 points to 516. This is the fifth all-program draw in the series ever since the draw started from the 6th of July. And today being the 31st of August, this is draw number 230. The tiebreaker, however, applied for the 16th of April 2022 for the profiles that were created 18, 24, 41, which basically means if your score is 516 and if you created your Express entry profile after 6:24:41 p.m. UTC time, then your profile would not be considered in this particular draw. So the tiebreaker always applies to the lowest drawn score, in this case 516, and the profiles that have been created after this tiebreaker date and time, they will not be considered for this particular draw. So good news again, 516 is the CRS score with the invitations of 2,750. And very quickly looking at the pool breakdown. Another better news here in the pool breakdown is the 501 to 600. That segment is looking really nice now. Again, this time not many nominations issued. So 601 to 1200 still stays at 466. Again, as I said, not too many nominations issued. So that number is pretty small, surprisingly. But if you remember, I've also been talking about Ontario not releasing the nominations, Ontario not conducting the draws. So those nominations, whenever they do get released, that is the only worry that I always have. But so far, that's still holding steady. But the number between 501 and 600, that has gone down to 7,224. This is for the previous week, the pool breakdown of August 15. Here, the number was at 8,221. And this week, as of the pool breakdown, as of 29th of August, which is 2 days back, the 501, 600 numbers are at 7,224. We'll talk more about that in detail as to how many people have joined the pool, etc. But as we go further down, that is 491 to 500 and 481 to 490. This is now where things are heating up. That numbers have obviously gone up because more people are joining there. And 471 to 480. Wow, that number is sitting at 19,033. So in total, if you were to look at these numbers, you would find that there are roughly 9928 and roughly 34,000, approximately 34,000 people between 471 and 500, 34,000 profiles. This is where it's going to get very, very tricky and tough. We'll talk about predictions. We will talk about what we expect for further or future draws to go for. But let's look at these numbers now. This was the express entry pool breakdown as of 15th of August, the previous one, just to give you a bit of comparison. But to break this whole thing down, the key analysis points are that the draw on draw, so the draw which happened this week, or rather yesterday and 2 weeks back, the draw on draw, the number increased in the 501 to 600. This number that you're talking, 500 to 600, which is showing at 7,224. This number has increased by 715 profiles, which again is good, because earlier in the second draw, we saw that the number of profiles growing was more than 1,100, which was obviously scaring a lot of people. So the number of people adding, or rather getting added into the express entry pool with scores of more than 500 has now begun to it's now looking better. The numbers are lesser and lesser, as we've already spoken about it, that we expect that these numbers will be lesser as we progress. So now this is 715 profiles. The remaining number of profiles in the 500 to 600 range is at this point of time bit more than 4,940. How did we get this number? Obviously the 722, what was that number? 7,224. That is the total number that was in the express entry pool on the 29th of August. Obviously there would be some profiles that have got added as well. And now after we subtract the number of invitations that have been issued, we get a total of 4,940. As I said, this number is an assumption because obviously there are some profiles which have been added. So you're looking at roughly 5,000 some odd number who are sitting in the pool, express entry pool, with scores of 500 plus at this point of time. Now, what is the next draw estimate like? Now, hoping and praying that they continue with at least 500 increment, if not more, then the next draw is now finally coming to the pre-pandemic level of 3,250. That is the expectation. And if that happens, then the CRS score would be in the range of 507 to 510. I'm not giving a very big drop there. And the reason for that is because there are 5,000 people sitting in the express entry pool, and they're all now getting compressed within the score of 516 and below, between 501 to 506, between 501 and 516, 516. So that's about 5,000 people there. So I'm anticipating with the next draw, obviously another few hundred, 600 to 700 people would have got added in. Then there would be the PNP draw as well, or rather the PNP nomination could have also been coming through. So you're looking at roughly another 2,000 some odd people getting cleared from the 501 to 516 level. Therefore, I expect the CRS in the next draw to be within the range of 507 to 510. Could be slightly higher as well. But the anticipation would be with the number of ITAs, and with this gradual increase, the prediction would be, or rather the anticipation would be, that they would be issuing at least 3,250, if not more. I'm really hoping for 3,500 draw now, but I think being more reasonable here would be 3,250. So what is the draw looking like for the below 500? Again, I've said this before. I've said this a couple of weeks back as well, that I anticipate the scores to drop below 500 in October. So this is, tomorrow September month starts. We are expecting 2 draws in the month of September. If the number of profiles above 500 is about 5,000, and then you add some PNPs and nominations getting issued, so you would have roughly, give or take, 6,000 to 7,000 profiles which would be there. If you consider the fact that this is dynamic, number of profiles keep getting added, the nominations keeps getting issued. So I'm anticipating the 2 draws would clear out all the above 500s, basically bringing us to the month of October, where you can anticipate, or where you can expect that the scores would have dropped to 500 and below. That's what we're all looking forward to. Now, that is when it gets tricky. And why does it get tricky? Because when it comes to the number of 491 to 500, you have 5,500 profiles. And when you creep up to 481 to 490, you have 9,242. So in total, between those two, you have roughly, give or take, nearly 15,000 profiles which are sitting between 481 and 500. That's where the competition is really going to get heated up. And I keep saying this, that the profile or the express entry pool is dynamic, which basically means more and more people keep getting added. They keep improving their scores. A lot of international students in Canada who are completing their education, who are completing their programs, their scores improve. International students who are here a couple of years earlier, they're completing their Canadian work experience, their scores improve. Siblings are landing, people are landing, their scores are getting added, and of course, people have taken out French, so those numbers are also getting added, and therefore, people have been able to improve their scores over the last few weeks, few months, of course, for the last couple of years as well. So this is how the Express Entry pool looks at this point of time. Scary, yes, but it's looking better. And the gradual that Sean Fraser mentioned in the initial tweet with the Express Entry draw, this gradual is now getting better and better. And we are hoping that these draws, the numbers of scores drop further. But it will all directly be proportionate, directly be related to how many invitations are being issued. As you can see, with the invitations being issued at 2750 this time, that the drop has been decent. We now have a score of 516. Would the draws continue? Yes, we are expecting the draws to continue bi-weekly. So September, we will have 2 draws. October, we'll have 2 draws. November is again where there can prospectively be a hiccup. And what I mean by hiccup, I'm not sure how many of you remember, 16th of November is when we are expecting the new tier system to come into effect or will be implemented. The new tier system will be implemented with the new knock codes. 4-digit knock codes are getting changed to the 5-digit knock codes. When this system change happens, hopefully, fingers are crossed, that IRCC has already made enough provisions to change the Express Entry system, to make the changes in the Express Entry system for these digits to become 4-digit to 5-digit. Now, if at all they haven't done it, or if they are still dealing with some hiccups there, IRCC, right? We've all come to know them better in terms of what kind of chaos they are in at this point of time. If at all they do have a problem with the Express Entry system because of this knock changes, then they may not conduct draws. They might not conduct 1 draw, they might not conduct 2 draws. It has happened in the past. It has happened in the month of June 2017 when they introduced new changes, when they wanted to add sibling points, when they introduced additional French points. So they had to put a hold, or they had to pause the draws for 2 consecutive draw weeks. For almost a month. For 2 draws, they did pause the draws. And what that did was that it shot up the scores, and the scores never dropped after that. So the lowest score was 413 on the 31st of May 2017, lowest ever for the Federal Skill Work All Program draws, 413. And then after the pause in the draws, when the next draw happens end of June, the scores had shot up to 449, and we all know after that, whatever, it's all history after that. So therefore, my only worry, my only concern is the month of November. 16th of November, it's a Wednesday, and if at all that change has any impact on the Express Entry system, then there may be a pause in the draws. I'm hoping that not. I'm hoping that they would have thought this through. I'm hoping that they would have prepared and planned for this in a better manner, so we don't have that kind of hiccup and that kind of a problem. But that is something which we all need to be aware of, be wary of, and that's what we're considering. At this point of time, Express Entry is looking healthy, it's looking good. The draws are happening, the number of invitations are getting better and better, and as we can see, the scores are dropping. As far as predictions are concerned, I just told you we expect the draws to drop below 500, or scores to drop below 500 by October. From there on, it's a matter of time, in the sense like there are about 5,000 Express Entry profiles with the score of 491 and 500. So you're looking at about 2 draws to clear that number out. And then we are basically into the 480s. Now for 480s, then that basically means you're already creeping into the end of November, mid-November, end November. And that's where it starts getting a bit rickety-rackety, because again, as I just told you, just explained to you about the tier system. So for 480s, now you see there is a big number there, more than 9,000 some profiles between 481 and 490. This big chunk will clear up only by end of this year, early next year. And as I said, the Express Entry pool is dynamic, so more and more profiles are always getting added. So you are looking at 480s, low 480s getting hit late this year if the draws continue, and or early next year. So this basically, in my opinion, in my views, is the anticipation based on how the invitations would be. I don't expect IRCC to continue increasing the number of invitations per draw. So at some point of time, they would come to a plateau where the draws will remain, or rather the invitations being issued will basically come to a standard, in the sense like they would stick to 3,500 or 3,700 kind of a draw, and it would stick to that. And once they do that, then but I do at some point of time also anticipate one large draw. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I have that feeling that there could be one large draw which might happen, primarily and only because they started with very small numbers. And one of the reasons why they started with small numbers is they were still trying to get handle on the backlogs, which hopefully now they would be in some form, because now they're also improving their staff number. They're also adding they're adding more staff to handle these applications and backlog. But yeah, this basically should help clear off all the backlogs. Sean Fraser has already provided some new backlog data on the IRCC website, which indicates that by the end of this year, all the backlogs should basically come to that level. Especially, I'm talking about express entry primarily. So this basically is how it's looking like. All nice, all healthy, all positive. So for people who are in 480s, I know 480s is really, really worried. I anticipate end of this year, early next year, because there's a big chunk of 480s. So they're almost 10,000, 9,000 some profile, almost going to 10,000. So you're looking at a lot of numbers there. And keep in mind, every time the draw happens, for the following draw, the next 14 days, the next 2 weeks, profiles are getting added. So the number which is getting cleared is also getting replenished. So therefore, you have to keep all these numbers in mind, as well as the fact that there will always be nominations that are being issued. So there's always going to be that number of between 800 to 1,000 people who would, on an average, receive their nomination. With all this in mind, with all this being considered, you now have a good understanding of what to expect, what to anticipate, and this is how it's going to roll. Thank you so much for joining in. This was our late night episode discussing the express entry draws. We'll just very quickly take a couple of questions before I tune out. Ismail says, could you please provide details on when to do the medical? I have 500 and expect to get the ITA in the 3 draws. Should I do it now or wait? No, I would request you to wait, because there's no rush in doing your medicals now. It's not like if you do your medicals now, things will start moving faster. Medicals just take half a day, less than a few hours. So just wait. Receive your ITA just when you're ready to submit your application a day before. Go and get your medicals done. And that would be most beneficial, because then you can have the longer duration of validity on the other side, so that you can plan your trip when you're coming to Canada. Most of the other questions are all about the scores and the anticipation. We've all discussed that in detail. Thank you so much for joining in. It was really nice seeing this draw. I mean, it always gives me so much of hope, and that's the reason I stay forever hopeful. Thank you so much for joining in. Take care, and I shall see you soon. Stay safe.